it was Na, Ryze, and Lucian for Hanwha Life. But now, without having to get rid of these priority picks, the target Diana is going to come out, and therefore Lucian needs to be banned by Live Sandbox.
The target on Summit's Gnar as well comes through here really early on. See if Hanwha Life Esports will get away with this Renekton pick.
Yep. And I kind of like the Gnar ban here as well, just given the fact that Hanwha definitely want to first pick the Renekton.
If they do ban that Renekton, want this Hanwha Life pick first, because this is a team that doesn't really prioritize any one champion. Okay, it's left open, so this should be a Renekton lock-in.
Almost 100%. But now, Sandbox get to, you know, possibly even do the same thing. I mean, if you're Summit, you're probably almost okay with that lane, but into a Renekton.
Kalista gets picked up here early, so you're going to have a lot of potential bot prio. Trundle also really strong into the Renekton. This could be flexed into pretty much any lane, but it's probably going to end up being jungle by default.
I like this, Aphelios, so a little bit more carry power.
Thresh
There's the Thresh as well. So the Flay now has a 2-second longer cooldown, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a pretty big,
still the same.
It's a pretty big change, but it's not going to affect how his kit works in pro play.
Yeah.
As we will see the Leona.
He still has Lantern as an ability. He can still put down the box and control it.
He can still hook people.
He's still Thresh.
Yep.
So that's good. For him, as Leona is going to come through once again, we can talk about self-counterpick and things like that, but we don't counterpick the bottom lane. This is where you basically just throw in whatever's going to suit your composition the best. That's what we've seen the meta develop into here in LCK. As the Nidalee going to be banned away, of course. It's only like a bit of health and things like that for Nidalee, but she does just... It feels like maybe it's going to get her over the line, allow her to brawl a little bit more in the early games. So
she is also just really strong with Renekton by the nature of her kit in general, and it also threatens whatever pick Live Sandbox want to put in the top side of the map. You know, you're always going to be a little bit more vulnerable if you have to deal with that CC and a spear. So a lot more options. They'll ban the cannon. The cannon was the pick I was thinking about here most, as Live Sandbox going to the top side, and that's one that can be squishy if there is Nidalee on the other side, but it is just banned away. And it's a little bit awkward to go for something like a Ornn if you're Live Sandbox here too now, because you don't have a comp that gets much value out of it because you're running a Kalista here. You don't know what the mid lane is going to be just yet. It's kind of a tough ban actually for Hanwha Life Esports. There's no amazing jump out choice, and you've already banned away that Gnar. Just take away the Syndra.
I think Jace could have been an all-right option.
That's what I was thinking about too, but it's not a counter pick or anything at the moment.
Yeah.
The Syndra ban here against Fate is not shocking because Fate is really good at it.
Well, I mean, Yone would definitely be a flex picking it into Chovy. But we'll see what he actually decides to go for. They probably want some magic damage. Is Viego going to be hovered? But I think the Jace makes the most sense as far as a blind pick. They are going to take that. Fate can also flex it into the mid lane if they would like to. But Jace into Renekton is a pretty comfy matchup. As Hanwha Life, wow, we are just
we're going back in time.
Front-to-back scaling mode.
Yeah.
What's the most obvious jungler here to be paired with the Orianna? Is it like Olaf or something like that? Maybe the Xin Zhao.
Xin Zhao is better for the meta, I think. But yeah, it's just easy ball carrier tank. Put him up in the front lines. Initiation. Going to be the name of the game here. Ooh, I'm not sure about either of these picks.
Yeah.
Not in this meta. Not on this landscape. Her E was nerfed in terms of her attack speed, so that's going to affect her clearly a little bit, but also affects a lot of her trading. So she's more commonly played in jungle right now than she is in the side lane.
I actually don't mind her in the jungle. I mean, her clear is a little bit slower with that being shut down, but it's her Q that does most of the clearing work for the Gwen anyway, so I think that's fine.
Fate looking to play a scaling AP mid laner here. The Azir is also going to be pretty strong against Orianna post 6. You have some kill pressure there, actually. It ends up being a lot more threatening. It's a matchup where you're not just going to get bullied by the Orianna, and they already took away the Syndra, so we're not going full control mage. We're just going down the Azir path here, so I like this adaptation here for Live Sandbox, the champion that Fate is pretty good at.
Yep, does take a lot of power away from Croco with a draft like this, because Trundle is a champion that plays around his lanes, whereas Diana is a champion that, as laners, you play around.
Yes.
So it's going to be a big mindset change here for Croco. We'll have to show some breadth in his style, And Humble Life Esports, they've gone back to the drawing board. They're like, all right, well, none of this funny business counter-pick in lane stuff. We are just going to pick strong things that can do stuff in the late game.
And also pick champions that their players are overall very good at, right? I mean, when you look at this draft for Humble Life Esports, it does kind of you're looking at comfort picks for a majority of the cast of players that are in this roster, right? And yeah, okay, the odd man out is probably going to be Willer on this Gwen. But we'll see how he performs on it here. There's a lot of setup of CC for both Chovy and Morgan when Willer can come over and rotate for that big damage to come through. A little bit of a nerf on Gwen in the earlier parts of the game, but I don't think that's going to be too big of a deal. Plus, this comp does very well in the mid to late game. Yep. Whereas this composition is a lot more complex, right? Like you were saying, Kroko has to change his playstyle. You're going to try to play around a lot of lane prio because you have the Jason into the Renekton, you have the Azir into the Orianna, and then you also have the Kalista on the bottom side. So using lane prio to get small advantages and then have those advantages going into the mid and late game is going to be very difficult. But I think if there's any team that can pull it off, it's Liv Sandbox.
Absolutely. There's also the fact that Trundle synergizes so beautifully with all three of the damage dealers that are on the side of Liv Sandbox. They've got Jace, who you slow down members of the enemy team, he shock blasts them to death. Fate is able to shuffle so much more comfortably if there's a pillar put down while he's trying to do it. And of course, Prince, I mean, the worst enemy of a Kalista used to be the Trundle, right? Because it's just a nerf to everything if you can't utilize that martial pose effectively. But if you've got a totem pole there to dance around, everybody else is slow, and you are just having a party, hopping mad, having a great time.
Oh, yeah, it's super strong for her.
As Effort's going to die in this brush here. It's a little bit sad. Goodbye, Effort.
I just like to think they're acting. That's how you get the packs. Like, oh, can you pretend to die really quick? Okay. Oh! All right, now we're square. We're tethered.
Yeah, does that mean that they're faking it or something like that? Like, I don't know.
It's like if her acting was a little bit worse, they'd be like, ooh,
yeah, don't know about
wasted
that. It. Maybe that's what happened when we had the tether not actually come through until 10 minutes.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, that was weird. Let's not bring that back.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
I've already done it, so it's a bit of a whoopsie. We've got a topside start here for the Gwen. Willer's going to be starting on the blue, as Morgan help him out.
Comet for Fate in the mid lane. Pretty common these days when you're trying to harass the mage, get a little bit of a lead. Just one of those things that the Azir is great at.
Yep, so I think it's something that a lot of our mid lane Azirs do. By mid lane Azir, I mean the only Azirs that we have in the LCK. But it's what BDD does, and of course BDD is just really, really good at Azir.
He's the trendsetter.
He is indeed. You generally trust when he's being so good at it.
Now, he's only played one game of it this season. It's been a lot less popular than it was last season, but we saw him played a lot in spring. I wouldn't go as far as to say he's one of our Azir iconic players, but yeah, he's very comfortable on the champion. Now, is he as comfortable as Chovy is historically on the Orianna? Not so much, but it's a good matchup, and it is going to give you a lot of prio. And this is, like, look at all three lanes. This is what you're drafting for as Liv Sandbox in a lot of ways, is the 3-lane prio, which means that Kroko can just farm nonstop, is going to have a lot of freedom in this early game. And if this continues, the first two objectives, the Drake and the Rift Herald, are going to be super easy for Liv Sandbox to scoop up and continue that advantage with. That is the kind of advantage that they need to have going into this game in order to sail through the mid to late game, because that's when Humble Life Esports draft is going to really start to come online.
Yeah, and also they've spotted out exactly where Willer has been this entire time, as we saw, with that Raptor Camp ward that Jonas Strong was so kind to demonstrate for us. So no surprises here in the cards for Liv Sandbox. As 60% win rate, 18-12 for Summit, having a great time. As I say that, he gets sliced a little bit and/or diced.
Yeah, nothing to scoff at here. Not an amazing win rate for him by any means. But remember, Summit has really come into his own this season, and also this year is where he's had some of his most successful games career.
Yep. I feel like Sandbox sort of live and die by the form of Summit.
Yeah.
You know? In 2019, they made back-to-back playoffs because of the fact that Summit was so extraordinarily good. Yes, the roster looked a lot different. However, I don't think it's really changed that much when it comes to what, this Sandbox team does. And so it's actually kind of interesting that, Summit has such a improved performance, and therefore, they look good.
Yeah. Now, you could see that the harassment in the mid lane has already started to have a bit of an impact here.
That minion had it coming.
That pillar as well on the Morgan here, this well placed. Not going to be anything you can do with it.
Yep, Flash did come out, though, from Morgan, so It's a successful gank there from Croco in his first time of asking.
Really good start here for Liv Sandbox, but this is par for the course with this draft so far. Teleport's traded in the mid lane, and Chovy actually takes a CS lead. I think that's just because he teleported back faster. But small lead right now for him. But when we hit 6, that's when the sparks can really fly there in the mid side of the map. As once again trying to bait something now that they know he's flashless here. Morgan is going to be the target.
I don't know whether Morgan's going to get baited in, because right now I think he'd just lose a fight. As he still has his teleport, but he's trying to hold on to it until the opportune moment. As you can see, the Liv Sandbox are desperately looking for a cheater recall. It's going to be Effort channeling his right now, and Prince going to do his very best to head back as Vista gets the news that there is no Leona yet in that brush.
Nope.
It's Chovy.
He's having a hard time, but that's just how this matchup can go.
Yep. Does tidy up that minion wave pretty comfortably, though, so does buy himself some space to go for another recall if he would like to, and he does.
Summit gets a teleport early, comes back here and pushes Morgan back into the lane, and this could actually lead to a plate with the wave he's got here, and he's Jace, so he's going to feel very comfortable. If Morgan teleports back in right away, he's going to get harassed. If he walks in, he's going to lose a plate, so he has to teleport. Does get his plated steel caps, which is going to make things a little bit more bearable here.
Yep. Decides to dive towards the minion wave, as Renekton's do like to do, as that Shock Blast is going to go wide, but this minion wave is largely just going to get collected for Morgan, so...
Yeah, not too bad, actually. Thought that could have gone catastrophically, but he handled it well.
Indeed. And, of course, the Renekton expected to not necessarily win the lane, because Jace, just with the range advantage and things like that, should be able to keep his health bar pretty low. Effort rotates up as we've got 6 minutes on the clock.
Yeah.
Just a couple more until that Rift Herald is going to spawn. First Drake is the Infernal, which is somewhat exciting.
Okay, Effort's here, grouped up right now. They are going to get the Scuttle. Unfortunately for Willer, the timing of this blue buff that I believe is about to respawn here is a little bit scary, but they don't actually commit in. Yep, and that was a little bit worrisome because Effort's here. You have Fate level 6, you've got Croco. Like, that's not a place you want to be. Vista has also matched the rotation. And we still have 80 seconds until that Rift Herald spawns, but that is going to be such an important moment for Liv Sandbox's comp. They need to get that extra money. They need to get that snowball rolling. Ooh, Morgan actually a lot of damage, yeah.
Gets a bit extra back there. Very nice before the hammer did come down and ruin his day. So the Crocodile just has a bit of fight left in him, as we can see. Has evened out the farm quite nicely. A couple of extra minions there for Summit, so it is about a wave. But you're not going to be too worried about just a wave of CS if you are the Renekton in this matchup.
Oh yeah, like you were mentioning, it's the range advantage is really nice, so they're going to get the streak, but it's also a matchup that you don't get stomped in. It's not like you're playing the Gnar or the Gwen into this where you're just like, well, I can't play the game and I'm 20 CS down and that's like the default. It's not quite like that. Yep, keeping up pretty well. They do get the Drake for free here, again, with lane prio in 3 lanes. That is expected, but they are able to do it very quickly, which is really important because that means you have the maximum amount of advantages going into this next fight, which is going to be on the Herald. Ooh, Morgan, man.
Stun not able to come out, but he did buffer it. So not doing too badly. Ham1 not able to stop the backs on this bottom side. As you can see, Will is just power farming. We've actually seen this be the more successful way of playing the Gwen. We saw this... I believe it was out of Peanut on our last day of last week, but I might be wrong.
There's only a few players who've kind of done this style. Even Dread has kind of adopted it a little bit later on in the season to play a little bit less aggressively. And when you have that nerf on the E, I think it's, sometimes even advised is they're actually gonna they were expecting them to rotate straight to the Herald, so they push this hard, but they're gonna get away with it. Nobody's down here, nobody's on the Herald, so Liv Sandbox are not actually punishing this, nor are they starting the Herald right now. So Honor Life Esports getting a free plate for the bot lane.
Yeah, they might be able to even move up their crescendum to this one once again, as I believe it was the last minion dematerializer that got rid of the cannon very quickly, and so that will mean that this wave is going to crash entirely onto this. And Effort's going to turn up, so that should actually deny it, which is certainly very good news, as Willa finally looking to try and gank a lane. Alcove Gaming here. Love Alcove Gaming.
Well, let's see. Summit has no vision of him whatsoever. He's verified that with his sweeper, but Summit is playing it safe. He's like, something's not right. I don't know where their jungler is.
Yeah, there's the flash forward. Let's see whether Summit can survive. He flashes, but flashes towards Croco. As now they're seeing who they can actually take down, as Croco takes basically no damage.
The pillar is so good!
Blast is massive, but the pillar doesn't actually stop him from walking through.
You know, it wasn't as good as I said.
Fate.
It was so close of actually locking him down. I was sure he was not going to be able to squeeze through there.
Yeah.
That was actually super close to being a kill, but that was such a great flash from Summit. He sold the idea that he was going to flash towards turret, then flashes towards Croco, ends up turning that around. Shock Blast is good. And they were able to, you know, stave off the pressure there, but they still haven't started the Rift Herald just yet.
Yeah, no one has, in fact. So it's going to be pretty late. A couple of minutes past, you know, HLE making it to the world. She's experiencing more Summoner's Rift than she often does, to be honest. As Chovy is going to get flashed on as they get underneath the turret and just wiped off the face of the Rift.
Oh, man, Effort is... He and Kerry are vying for best support in the LCK. I think Kerry has still got the title at the moment, but this guy is everywhere all the time. One of our best roaming supports right now in the LCK. Makes the big play here to set up for the Emperor's Divide, and it's often the jungler who makes that happen. Not in this case. Effort hits 6, heads over there, and it's a really nice setup. And Chovy gets punished here. They're still unable to secure the Rift Herald, however.
That's a Moonlight Vigil. That's a minion. So Deft having a bit of a rough one. So far today, however, not going to get punished for it or anything like that. Vista moving on down. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and ignore that one.
Yeah, sure. No, it's okay. There was no consequence of it. Just that his cooldown is going to be a thing for a little bit, but it's not like that's going to be super critical at the moment. Especially considering the Rift Herald isn't being started up once again for Live Sandbox. They're just farming out super hard and just trying to guarantee prio before they rotate over for anything. As Vista.
Yeah, Effort going to go in with the Zenith Blade, and Vista's going to flash away from him. Double control wards go down, which is a bit depressing. As now you can see, this HLE is just surrounded by Live Sandbox wards.
Yeah, that was a really nice grab onto Vista's flash. He gets punished for that. Live Sandbox are getting all these small advantages right now on the map. Nothing too critical just yet. But the biggest issue I have is hold that thought. Summit.
Morgan fighting against Summit here. He does still have Dominus. Playing with fire just a little bit there as we saw, but is just going to be able to spin around with that Call the Meek and get a bit of health back after taking the cannon minion.
The one thing that's starting to be a bit of a concern is that Croco hasn't been able to set up for any kills. He's gotten some summoner spells. He's been around the map. He's been very successful. As we're going to watch this, his effort's very loud with this call. He's like, I'm going, I've got ult. And boom. Solar Flare into the Emperor's Divide. Get out of here, good job. And, you know, the concern I have with this Trundle pick is that the Gwen is going to be a real fighter later on. Like, she's going to do a lot of damage. She's going to have a lot of utility in these fights. She's going to be very difficult to kill. And she's getting her items online, whereas Trundle hasn't been able to get any extra gold just yet. And he hasn't been able to get, like, that Rift Herald gold because that's still on the map. I'm going to keep harping on it because I feel like Live Sandbox have had some opportunities to take that advantage and try to push for that fight. And it's not even like a flip with this composition. You should be favored to take it in a 5v5 fight at this stage anyways. And with the prio you have, figured they would have committed earlier, but now they've got a 2 Drake lead, and Hanwha Life are actually going to be the ones who start this one up.
Will HLE actually give any plates this game? They have 1 minute until the plates fall down. As we do have a Ocean Rift once again. Prettiest Rift in my personal opinion.
Very, very clean.
Indeed, indeed. As Fate looking for the Emperor's Divide. The flash comes out as Effort comes back again. Willa, though, now loses control of his mid lane. Should be able to take the Rift Herald. As, oh, it's down to 2 health as Croco manages to get it. He will die for it, I believe. Yes, as the needlework is going to finish that kill off. As Fate off to the side, not actually able to participate. Shockwave lands onto Effort. He's going to be taken out as well. As Hanwha, they may have botched the Rift Herald, but the Rift Herald's not going to be able to get any plates. And also, they managed to win the ensuing fight. Couple of plates do go down there, though, as now Summit fighting against Morgan. Flay avoided beautifully by the Jace. The hammer pushes back Morgan, and Summit's already traded 1 for 1. You're going to say it's 100% worth.
Oh, absolutely. I thought he was going to go for the execute there, but that's on a really long
no, it was
timer.
actually Hanwha that got the Rift Herald. So
yeah, they do get the
They don't get plates, but they will be able to get map control with it. So I apologize, everyone.
No plates, but still going to be the value coming through there. It was 2 health, I think, actually,
yeah, it was.
As we called out. Like,
I'm not sure who actually picked it up.
It was Renekton.
It was actually...
Morgan picks it up, the smite is missed, but they get it. And Morgan picks it up here right away, and so he's going to be the one who gets it, which is
fine.
Amazing, but it's fine. The Summit dodges everything. This is such a god in this moment. Wants to kill Vista. Lantern gets placed here, and Summit's like, no, I'm going for this. You guys can't just walk away from me here and give the kill to Willer. I'm actually going to take Vista with me. He was so close to actually executing on the turret, but he decided, I don't think I'm going to get this. I know Gwen's nearby. I'm just going to go for the kill, so turns it earlier here. And question mark ping as well.
Yeah.
Coming down from one of his teammates. Can't see who it was, but anyway. This ends up being a really nice trade. I don't know what he says.
Oh, 아깝다.
Aw, what a waste.
I don't know whether it was...
Well, Agapta is not really a waste. It's kind of like, it was like...
So close.
It's kind of like, what a shame. Like, kind of...
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's hard to translate that sentence into English. Doesn't have an exact translation. But anyway, I think he's still pretty happy with what happens there.
Yeah, no, I think that was pretty heroic. Still, they are going to have a slight gold disadvantage right here, as we can see. That is likely also going to extend, as, of course, in the meantime, the bottom outer turret did fall down, and Deft, he's 20 CS behind, which is unfortunate. However, I believe was able to get the value of a bunch of these plates.
Yeah, for sure, he did.
As Sandbox going to push up here towards the bottom side. Morgan taking some Krugs. But isn't going to be able to fight 1 versus 2, I don't think. Especially with Fate's Call available. So Prince is just going to mow through this turret.
Yep, he will get all of that gold back. You could see the plate difference actually is going into the favor of Prince. I thought Deft...
Only 2 plates, even though 5 went down, which is interesting.
Yeah, I thought that Deft would have had a second plate at least there. He's going to get this whole turret up here, though, so he's feeling very happy with himself despite the CS deficit. 829 gold behind at the moment still until that hits on our graph. Now goes up to 500.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a problem.
Yeah.
Or is it? Actually, Thresh is pretty good.
Yeah, he's got a Lantern. He'll be fine. Manages to lock down the cannon minion as well. Morgan sets up shop towards the bottom side as we've got a bunch of pings out, just warning Morgan of the potential dangers that lurk in the dark forest.
The situation here for Liv Sandbox is, I think it's a little bit more dire than the gold graph shows because... Lurking, but nobody here. Summit does not have teleport. If he continues to push, he will be punished, but he is not going to.
I wish there was a bridge there, because then he'd be like an actual troll.
Can imagine it.
Yep.
Okay. I don't think the timing of this works out. The
observers,
observers,
are you okay?
the observers are like trying to tell us a scary story, but
yep.
Like I know that that shadow on the wall is actually just like my uncle's hand behind a lantern. Like it's not actually scary.
Yeah, just make me some more s'mores. I think we're done with this one.
But what I was going to say is I think the situation is a little bit more dire here than the gold graph shows for Liv Sandbox because their team fighting, potential going forward here on some of these upcoming objectives is not amazing.
Well, this is a 2v2 as Effort is going to get stunned. Willer definitely not immune, as we can see. Going to go golden for the moment, but yeah, not dashing out of that one. That's going to be the kill going over to Croco. And Hummer Life Esports are not able to respond with anything.
That's a lot of shutdown gold as well, going over to Liv Sandbox. And what I was going to say...
also Soul Point.
Yeah, what they really have, the real advantage they have in this game is the Drake advantage. And to get picked right before this extremely critical moment, I mean, this is on the rookie jungler player here for Hummer Life Esports. Willer throws his life away here at a very critical moment. It is caught, right, to be fair, but they don't have vision around that part of the map. He dies, and this is no longer even a conversation. And now Liv Sandbox, as you say, has Soul Point. And so they can actually choose to side lane. They can try to, not group up for future Drakes, try to get more control over the map. This is so much power for them. And their comp does scale well with the Azir, scales well with the Jace. It's just the simplicity of Honor Life Esports' comp and how much damage it's going to have with this Aphelios later on is what really worries me. But when you have this much Drake power, you can just avoid those fights for a while.
Yeah. I think as well, like, if you look on Liv Sandbox's side, like, Jace is always going to have value, and Azir can always turn a team fight.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of sort of mechanical stealing for this as well, as Deft is going to get the stun in the mid lane, but we are going to ignore that for now as we sort of just list lazily over towards these players moving about in the jungle. Not actually anything to come from it, and Sprint's is going to eat some honey fruit.
The potential is definitely here in this Live Sandbox comp, I agree. The ceiling is very high.
Yeah, of course. But the same can be said for things like a Shockwave and stuff like that. So we'll have to see how this one's going to go as Vista throws a hook away. Croco and Effort once again going to find Willa, as that's another beautiful pillar that goes down. But Shockwave going to have to be flashed there by Croco. Moonlight Vigil comes out as everyone's stunned up. Croco getting taken down very low. Solar Flare not exactly hitting the sweet spot. Neither does that Shock Blast. Fate's Call is going to get Effort out to safety, but it's a lot of buttons now on cooldown for Live Sandbox.
Yeah, a lot of buttons on cooldown, and luckily for Live Sandbox, there's no objective right now for Honor Life Esports to just steal away during this really nice advantage they get. It was a close call for Willer until the rest of the team responds really well, and unfortunately, Croco just not very tanky. You know, he did not go for a tanky build here in this game, and you have to be really careful about being up in personal with this comp.
Yeah, Hook is going to land onto Effort, but no one really wants to engage onto him, nor do you really want to pull him close to your team. So nothing going to happen there. That turret's still very healthy, as we can see in the mid lane.
It's giving Live Sandbox so much of a point to retreat to when they extend deep into the river looking for vision, looking for a little skirmish, just like the one we just saw. Having this mid turret up is just... it's what allows you to make plays like that, because you're like, well, that didn't work out, we'll just back off. We had to trade some ultimates there, but we can get out and we can defend behind this turret and then continue to farm around the map, as Fate's going to do now. Yep, it's a really interesting game we're watching here, actually, because both teams have strong scaling arguments, but there are some parts that don't do as well, like the Renekton and the Kalista, for example. The Trundle is kind of complicated because how his ult works is always going to be great for you, and his pillar is going to work no matter what level he is, no matter how many items he has. A Summit.
Yeah, we got a lot of wards in this brush as Willa takes so much damage. Summit trying to chase after him, but it's not going to be enough. Willa's going to fall. It's a 1-for-1 on the bottom side, and that is what you want from your split pusher.
100%. Summit makes it happen twice. This time it's really on a really nice split push angle, because guess what? You commit 2 resources there, you trade 1 for 1, but you lose a turret on the top side of the map, because that power that you gain when you force a rotation like that, when you force a response like that, gives you, just by default, more power elsewhere on the map. And this is exactly the tug-of-war game that Live Sandbox is playing right now. It's Morgan. Looks like he's going to get away with this, but just barely.
Yep, he's at least going to be able to take the Grump, as now he's looking for a back. There's those wards still there on the bottom side. And as we can see, just going to get away. So let's have a look at this one more time.
He already had his acceleration gate up, so he doesn't even get to use it in this fight. Flashes onto the mist so they can guarantee the damage. So well played by Summit. This guy is a master at dealing with Gwen.
Really impressive stuff. Was a bit of a shutdown there as he fell, so maybe it was Willa intentionally giving some extra gold over to Morgan. No, that's definitely not what happened, because that would have been very, very silly. However, that is going to be at least a consolation prize.
That's what I tell my friends when I feed. I was just trying to get you more shutdown gold later.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, think about what's going to happen when you manage to kill him, though. Think about the reward you're going to feel. Yeah. Don't generally feel that when we lose the game. As Effort,
consolation prizes.
Yeah, going to get shot by the Crescendum Sentinel turret. Not going to worry about it too much. As Sandbox,
look at
20
this.
seconds.
Yeah.
This is Ocean Soul. Humble Life Esports have to get into position, and they are so far away.
They have no vision whatsoever. None. Look at how little they have. It's absolutely bonkers.
And who can face check? Almost no one.
So dangerous.
As Chovy's in the mid lane, they don't have their Shockwave for this skirmish. There's no turret here either. Solar Flare goes down as Fate is going to immediately get rid of Morgan. Chovy teleported in. Can he find a Shockwave to try and turn this fight around? The box is fantastic, but Willa is dead. No smite available for the Ocean Soul fight. And the Shockwave's still there. I mean, theoretically, they could try and go for something. There's still some damage.
No ults for Live Sandbox, so you
3
really have to
versus
respect
5.
it.
Do you think that this is ever going to happen? I don't think
so, but you got to try, I think. You can't give this up.
Chovy's going to get into the brush.
Go for it.
Okay, Dissonance comes out. They're respecting the orb as Deft looking for even more. This Drake is going to come through here, but Croco knows that he has smite, and they don't. Oh, the pillar is beautiful. No one's going to be able to get in range. They confirm that goes down, and the shockwave is going to be used onto just one troll who managed to get his tribute as well. So, of course, he's going to be absolutely fine. And Live Sandbox now have a huge Dragon Soul to augment the rest of their power.
Look at the items that are coming through here, too, across the board. Death Cap almost done for Fate, right? And this is just such a nice angle from Effort. He's like, oh, you guys made a whoopsie. I'm going to go ahead and isolate Death. And yes, he can get away, but now it's a 4-on-1 fight. Onto Willer as Chovy teleports, and he's like, uh-oh, this is not where I wanted to end up. And then the Ignite burns Willer down, so that means guaranteed no smite. Not like he could have come back anyways if he had lived there with 1 health. So this is a dire situation. Deathcap done for Fate.
We got another fight as the pillar goes up to deny the lantern. I love that. Croco still trying to fight forward as Willer. Yeah, you have to get out of there. The Zenith Blade max range from Effort, but Vista's going to flash out of the way. And now Live Sandbox looking to set up around this Baron. They've got Ocean Soul. They have not a care in the world, as they also have the Ren to try and secure it as well, as Harma Life Esports should at least be able to try and contest the area, but the turn is so dangerous. Effort looming once again with his bevy of CC. Doesn't have the Solar Flare, but Summit, he's got full health and a lot of other things. There's a Shockwave, will connect onto 2 Fate, immediately vacates the area as Croco's incredibly low deft, locks down the kill. And Live Sandbox, they have to get out of here, and now Hanwha, with a lot of damage, are looking to start the Baron for themselves.
This would not be the first time in this series where we see a Baron end up deciding the fate of one of these two teams, but at least this time with the damage output, the follow-up, and the lack of commitment by Live Sandbox here, they're able to walk away with their lives for the most part, set up for a re-engage here, and Summit is just doing so much in this game.
He is huge. I mean, he's the one that stopped that Baron, you know, land a couple of shock blasts and make sure that they don't have the health bars to do it safely.
And like, when you look at some of these items here for Live Sandbox, the itemization has been just like a race to try to get to the most possible damage, the most possible burst, as this is going to be the stun that prevents a Lantern take. And Morgan
double
is like...
control ward.
Double control ward and the pillar.
Yeah, the pillar. Double control ward, totem ward, and pillar. My goodness, you ain't clicking
now,
that plan.
After this, unfortunately, Hanwha Life Esports' comp is still very strong, and we see another Moonlight Vigil do a ton of damage. This is going to force Live Sandbox to actually give this up, and Effort is going to die. But with all the damage that Summit puts off in this fight, while also staying at full health somehow miraculously, they cannot start it again themselves. So just going to be a vision war right now here, and they have Callista. So as you mentioned, like, they can just start this again, but there's no vision, and Hanwha Life Esports have to respond.
Well, I mean, they're going to spot that it's going down, but it's going down so fast. The pillar once again going to deny as the Solar Flare going to come through. Effort's just trying to stop them from getting in to try and steal the Baron, so he's going to sacrifice himself, and he's going to type Worth in chat, and I would 100% agree with it.
I mean, is Leona fair? I don't know. Sometimes it just feels like this champion does way too much bang for your buck with this pick. Is not only can the pillar delay and buy time, but he could basically just be a wall, a force field, you know, if you will, preventing Hanwha Life Esports from rotating in. He lives for so long, he buys enough time for that to be finished off. And this is one of the advantages you have as this composition as Live Sandbox, is you could just go, okay, well, we traded 1-for-1 on the Baron, but guess who gets there faster? We're red side, we rotate over, and we have the Callista. We can rush this down. We have vision advantage, so Hanwha Life Esports just kind of have to walk through that choke and hope for the best. And the best is not going to be great in this case. No. And you have the Ocean Soul on top of it, so you can walk away from this, heal up, re-engage. You can just constantly do objectives when you have this much map control as Live Sandbox. And starting to feel like a very, very uphill battle that Hanwha Life Esports may not be able to walk. The gold graph, again, doesn't tell the story. This time it's...
I mean, it's been a flatline the whole game.
It doesn't tell the story. It's about the compositions and the control of the map.
And Willer just completed Cosmic Drive. I really feel like he needed a Zhonya's, and he doesn't have it. He sold his stopwatch that he broke bottom lanes. It's a bit unfortunate.
He's had a really hard game. This has not been his best.
No, Pillar coming through once again. The Trundle has been very high value.
Certainly has. You know, for value for gold, Trundle is one of the best you're going to get.
Yeah, precisely. Now Hanwha looking to try and defend this inner turret as best they can. Chovy's in the mid lane. Fate to that one.
Fate has so much power in this moment. If they actually decide to group up on any of these choke points, Emperor's Divide just does insanity damage. Plus the CC is just going to allow you to wipe the team.
Yeah, well, Willer is going to have to dash out of the way. This inner turret is taken. That just took a pillar. They just placed a pillar down. And that did it. As Deft loses half of his health bar, same can be said for Vista. Summit has said, no, you will not be re-engaging on us today.
I mean, the Baron buff is going to make this a lot easier, but these are the moments where you're sieging as Live Sandbox where you have insane power between the Jace and the Trundle setting up pillars and this Azir who can hit with impunity. There's no one that could really punish him right now, especially with the draft of Hanwha Life Esports. You need a Renekton or a Gwen to get back on top of him, but that's just so unrealistic when Baron buffs up. Hanwha Life Esports need to take a 5v5 team fight on an objective, say the Elder Drake that's spawning, or
I mean, they need to fight with this Elder Drake. If they just give that one up for free, then I think they're just going home.
They can't fight without vision control, though, because if they don't have vision control, like this is a really smart play by Willer and Vista to try to get a little bit more vision control on this objective so they can actually set up to fight it on their terms, because without that, you just can't use the Shockwave to its fullest potential. You can't use the Moonlight Vigil. And now they have good position here. Last chance in this game, Hanwha Life Esports, last chance in this series.
Well, Pillar is going to come through. The Crab is going to get hooked here as Willa, I believe, did not spine it, thank goodness, as Vista takes half of his health bar. Some vision being put onto Effort, who is looking for a flank. Are we just going to flip on an Elder? Because, you know, part of me thinks that might be the way for Hanwha.
That's the idea.
As the Jace is actually just going to do so much work, though, as Fate takes a lot of damage from Chovy, who is very strong. This Shockwave could certainly hurt. He needs to hit more than one person with it, though. As Deft, he's at full health. He decides to go forward, though, so that's going to put him on half.
It's on the wrong side of the team fight here, though. Chovy is in such a dangerous spot to actually hit that Shockwave. It's so risky how he's standing.
Well, Moonlight Vigil will connect. That's a bit of poke damage, but they get themselves the shield. Oh my goodness, the Shock Blast was massive. As Azir is going to get taken down immediately. Solar Flare is fantastic. Vista dies immediately. And the same can be said for Deft. Effort, he goes golden, is now over the wall is Chovy, but he's not actually participating in the fight. Croco now chasing after the Orianna, who will be taken down. Morgan follows suit. That's the ace, and Live Sandbox will get the 2-0.
That's going to be a 2-0 tonight, and that is going to put them in such a good position here to potentially take top 2 spots here, skip the first round of playoffs.
I think they confirm it. With a 2-0, I think they are confirmed first or second for Live Sandbox, which is just huge.
It's pretty massive if they actually are confirmed.
Or at least that's what I read. Now that I think about it objectively, I don't think that makes any sense at all. So
it's a really good chance, though.
There's still definitely a very good chance.
Yeah, no, for sure. As this is just desperation here from Hanwha Life Esports. 2 rough drafts back-to-back. This one much better than the first, but still not enough.
Yeah, a lot of desperation now as they try and hold on to their Nexus. But Prince should be able to hop on over and grab this one. They've got the Elder Drake buff as well, remember. As Deft goes golden, Croco is going to die. The Emperor's Divide used just for fun, as the Shockwave doesn't do too much, and that is going to be that. Live Sandbox with the 2-0 over Hanwha Life Esports, and they're going to make the Hanwha Life miracle run next to impossible.
The beginning of the season, you know, we were having conversations about the 4th world seed and who were going to make playoffs, like what our kind of initial predictions for the season were. And I think most people, myself included, and most Korean analysts, most Western analysts all said, well, I think you expect Hanwha Life Esports gets top 4 again. Like, they're probably going to go.